over the last over the last week and a half, easily the last week and a half, 8, 9 different conversations have popped up. This topic has popped up 8 or 9 different times easily, and that's just here alone. That's from people here, my Japanese friends, like who all are just like, this AI thing is scary. It's dangerous. My friend, Hide, what? This was on Wednesday here, Tuesday in the States. We were having a discussion about a couple of things, and one of the staff members too. And let me remind y'all of something. This staff, and it wasn't actually just one of them. A couple of them joined in on this, but this staff ranges from the age of, I think the youngest person there, she's 17. Everyone else is 20 and up. She is a very intelligent young woman. Every, like, I mean, it just is. A lot of people are, intelligent, but she looks at things in a very interesting light for being 17. Let me be dead ass about that. But they all said, and Hide was the first to say it. He goes, "This is a scary situation for us here." And I'm like, "Yeah, because it's dangerous." And every single one of them was like, "Yes." And then that's when they all started saying what they felt about it, everything else. Now, I have said things about AI prior. No cussing. All right, cool, cool, cool. I'm gonna try and keep it. You don't. Okay. I see. You redeemed that. I wasn't even looking at chat. My bad. My bad. On this screen, it won't show it. On this screen down here, it will. But I have said tons about this before. You all know. And for those of you that are new here, those of you that are watching this later on, those of you who don't know anything about me, I have a background in a lot of different things. Technology is one of those things that I have a heavy background in, beyond, you know, the other things. Mathematics, being a chef, loving food, like all the things we talk about on here. I don't just say things just to be yapping. I say things because I know what I'm talking about. Not just that, everyone has an opinion. And granted, I've said this before too. Some opinions are right, some opinions are just downright wrong. But on this AI thing, I had a thought while we were all talking about this. And because of the way my brain is, and I'm always doing something, I had to go ahead and voice record this thought. The reason why is because after I'm done talking about something, there's a lot of things I'll just push to the side, push it out of my head for that moment. But then when I come back to talk about it, especially with you all, like certain points and details might be lost. In this moment, when I thought about this, because of everything that they had said and what we had been talking about, it led me to say something to them that I did not want to lose. And I'm going to go ahead and start this off by reading this real fast. All I said is this, all right? People are sheep. It's starting at childhood. You're being herded by tech companies that offer products to schools while acting as if they care about education. But at the same time, they're helping implement terrible policies like No Child Left Behind. And let me tell y'all right now, if you don't know what that policy is, that is a terrible policy and it's starting to catch up and bite everybody in the butt right now. But all the while, all they're doing is extracting the data of the children for profit purposes. Now, if you think that's not true, Google, when they were giving out the Chrome books to schools and things like that, they went through a lawsuit and they actually had to pay out because they found out they were just siphoning information off of the kids. Ad revenue, different things like that. It always comes down to those different types of things. But they didn't take the data and information to continually market products throughout their lives, to push those products and propaganda, leading to creation of AI, which is being used to train individuals not to think, and draining the resources both physically and mentally of the individuals, and in turn hurting you to the end, which is the end goal: the loss of jobs, resources, AI creating division amongst friends, neighbors, mothers and sons, and even in some cases, pushing individuals to end their own lives. Literally. Now, if you guys haven't heard about those situations, go ahead and look it up. But I'll take one of these things specifically because it is very pertinent to hear right now. And I'm not going to use a whole lot of visuals and everything else like that, except for in this case. Because where I said creating division amongst mothers and sons, oh, yeah, oh, yeah. This right here, let me pull this up on screen for you all right now. This young boy here, James Weston Higginbotham, an Alabama University student, was found dead near Kyoto just last weekend. He had gone off on his own on a hike, which, listen, I will say this, that is not a good idea anywhere, anywhere, let alone in that area. I have friends who go hiking. The girl that I've told you all about before, she's usually on stream. I know she's busy right now. She's out in the Philippines, but I mean, she's told me about some of the hikes that her and her friends have taken, different things of that nature. But he ended up trying to go off on a hike and died. And the reason why this is relevant to that whole statement that I just made is because of the fact that the argument he had with his mother prior to storming off at that point in time is about AI. It was about AI. And in fact, I think it said right there, my fear is that he got hurt and that he's stuck. This is before she knew his outcome. My fear is that he doesn't have enough food because there's plenty of water and that he's lost. Those mountains, that forest goes for a very long time and it's extremely dense. But where does it say? Oh, I was using a little bit too much chat GPT. Japan is a country that I've had a hard time navigating, she said. Weston is very anti AI because, oh, wait, why does that? Okay, that's weird the way that that's actually encapsulated. But anyway, Weston is very anti AI because, he's into sustainability, engineering, and AI uses a lot of water and is depleting a lot of water resources. And this, my friends, is a fact. When I said in this here that it's draining resources, both physically and mentally, the physical part of the resources and the mental part can be tied to one another because what it's doing is this was actually something I was going to say later, but I'll go ahead and just put it out there now. A lot of people who are fired from tech jobs, especially those tech jobs where AI has come in and started actually, replacing them on whatever scale, they're then used by companies who then hire them to train the AI models in the things that they specialize in and then fire them once they're done. That takes a drain on a person physically and mentally because it's an in and out of a job sort of situation. And then all of a sudden, you can't find a job in your field because you've now trained. What did I say before? What's the best way to teach someone or something how to take your job? You train it to do so. And that's exactly what's happening in these situations. But then the other part that it's draining is that it's draining the natural resources around individuals. Every place that these data centers have been put into, Mississippi being one of the prime ones. It was the first one where they were just like, this is outrageous. The heat that it's producing, the fact that you have to de-water an area in order to put these things in, and then they go back and take up most of the water resources in order to keep them cool, and then kill off all of the electrical resources within an area, forcing you to pay higher prices, so on and so forth. And while most of you might be younger who watch this channel and are watching this right now, I'm going to tell you something. It does and should matter to you. And it should matter to you for a very big reason as to what I'm about to get into, this $1.1 trillion fucking scam, because the math ain't mathin'. And I'm going to tell you how the math ain't mathin'. But every one of you should care about this because it is hurting your very futures, and it is potentially going to ruin your parents. All right? Let's keep this going. Uh, it's created an easy means to rob you. Oh, this is what we're about to go into. AI is also, it drains the mental knowledge of those in specialty fields and tech companies that lead to the enforcement of utilizing AI in cruel ways. It's even created an easy means to rob you should the bubble burst, while turning a true, real life villain into the world's first trillionaire. Now, let's go ahead and get into this. And this is where things are about to get a little bit technical, but I'm going to break it down as simply as I possibly can. And here's where my background in a lot of these different things actually comes from. And you can actually do your own research, and that is without even using AI as much as you think you would need to. Or I don't think we ever, no, we didn't. We didn't. And we will get into that. But this right here. All right. So, first off, let me tell you guys something. If you don't know, the reason why the data centers are being put up is essentially to grow a bubble of something that does not actually matter. If you guys don't realize this, and like that young man's mom does not realize this, AI is not helpful to you all in the way that you think it is. In fact, you had Google and other search engines, Bing, while everybody can't stand Bing for its own, reasons, so on and so forth. But there's tons of different ones to where you can actually get the information that you need to get. And all an AI is, all Chat GPT, all these things are just faster scaled, larger scaled, and faster processing of gaining that information. But here's the problem with that is that everybody then automatically takes the information that they get from AI and just rely on it, believe it to be true. That is stupid. And in fact, you end up doing triple the work. First, you have to go in, you have to give the information that you want the AI to research for you. All right. And you have to be precise about it. In your precision, you might go and search for things that you're telling the AI to do. And you can't trust the AI to actually give you the right information. So you're searching outside of it in the first place. But then you get that information back from the AI. Do you A, go ahead and just put that out into the world as though it's fact and though it's true? Or do you B, go ahead, research the information that the AI just gave you, and then rewrite the entirety of the thing or the different portions versus doing all of it yourself? A lot of people are simply taking the information as fact and then putting it out to the world. And here's terrible, and I mean terrible, proof of that. Judge punishes four lawyers after catching both sides using AI in lawsuit. And the reason why these morons, these lawyers who you would think you are a lawyer, your job is to get the facts right. And this isn't the first time this has happened. In fact, a couple of lawyers have been disbarred for this. There have been multiple cases of this over the last couple of years. These morons gave the input, but no one went and researched all the information that was fed back. They took it as fact, they handed it in to a judge, and the judge is like, these cases that you're citing here don't actually exist. Yes, AI has a tendency and a problem with hallucinating things that do not exist. Now, tell me how you think that using a if you went into the doctor's office and your doctor had to go and search chat gpt for an answer that he should know, If your doctor gave you, boy, let me not say that. That will get me in trouble. That will get me in trouble. Listen, just take the first part. Listen, are you trusting that individual? If I'm in any kind of legal trouble and my lawyer ever says the words to be chat GPT, Anthropic, anything on that level, nah, bruh. Nah, we're done. We're done. You deserve to be disbarred for real. An individual who's supposed to have some sort of knowledge of what it is that they're doing, some sort of knowledge of the court cases that that he's relaying as an example, a team of individuals to do the research. But we're going to trust ChatGPT. All right. Now, getting to the main topic, why all of this is relevant. Here we go. I had to write all of this down. So, first and foremost, just recently, an IPO was done. And if you don't know what an IPO is, it is an initial public offering when you go into the stock market as a publicly traded company. And that publicly traded company now is, guess what? SpaceX. SpaceX just went on IPO. And in that IPO, it made Elon Musk the first trillionaire on paper. And this is how you have to know the whole financial structure is propped up on hopes, dreams, and lies. All right. The actual company, they evaluate it at around $860 billion. Possibly some people said that it's only worth 600 billion. But again, it's based on BS and lies. But because of this, again, he became the world's first trillionaire. Let me explain some things to y'all. Oh my gosh. All right. All right. So, the only reason why this actually went through the way that it went through is a few laws had to be tweaked in order for it to go through, which are BS. All right. But the main point to this is that Elon did this in order to maintain control of all three of his companies. He also has a future payout of an extra 1 billion shares of the stock, which is worth about $135 billion. And that's if SpaceX actually, this is where it's stupid, if SpaceX successfully establishes a sustainable colony of 1 million people on Mars. Now, listen, ladies and gentlemen, this whole Mars dream, colonizing Mars, which, we know how Americans like colonizing shit. This whole idea is a joke. This is an individual trying to feed his ego, plain and simple, and a bunch of other people around him helping to feed that ego while filling their pockets full of money and potentially sending everyone into the poorhouse over it. I'll get to why that is. Now, it is not realistic to get to even colonize Mars, all right? Let me explain why. This is where I'm going to go into a lot of the technical things, my expertise on a lot of this ish as well. So, first and foremost, the launch window, all right? Mars only aligns favorably once every 26 months. So, 2 years and a little bit of change, all right? Once every 26 months, all right? In the next 30 years, you there'll only be about 14 of these launch windows. Mind you, Elon Musk is in his 50s. 50s, all right? To send 1 million people across 14 times, they'd have to launch over 71,000 people per actual window of time frame to get from Earth to Mars. Now, the breakdown of this mathematically would be 710 of their quote unquote starships simultaneously every 2 years, and that doesn't account for the cargo ships, for everything necessary to even potentially sustain life or even set up a structure on Mars. All right, that's one, and that's pretty damning right there. Here's the next thing. So all the cargo, the reality of it is, what is necessary to do this is crazy work. All right, so you would need the estimate that I found in every article from every person who has said anything about this. For every one human, you'd need at least 10 to 100 tons of cargo. That's food production systems, water extraction tools, nuclear reactors, habitats, and med bays. All right, you got to have med bays. Med bays are a real thing. All right, yeah. Now, sending 1 million people requires moving 10 million to 100 million tons. The math ain't mathin', people. Even if every starship achieves a maximum planned capacity of 100 tons per flight, it would take 100,000 to 1 million successful cargo landing on Mars. Mathematically, this is, like I said, this is out of the realm of an individual who's in his late 50s. Mathematically, not possible. The manufacturing limits, all right? There's definite limits on those. Mars have no factories, no steel mills, no semiconductor plants. Every piece of heavy machinery would have to actually be flown there. The construction time, I'm not even going into depth on that. The construction time is obscene. Even for 100,000 people on Earth to build something like this would take decades. All right, and here's the other part right here. Human biology. There's a limit to that. If you guys don't know, individuals who live on the International Space Station, when they come back, they are screwed. They are screwed. You have to go through a lot of hospitalization, retraining of certain things because you are no longer utilizing your muscles and different things of that nature on an International Space Station. But we're going directly there from Earth. We're okay. We have, you know, functioning bodies. Well, here's the problem with that. All right. A 6 month journey in space exposes passengers to intense solar radiation, zero gravity. So, bam, right there. 6 months out the rip. You've already depleted a lot of that physical health, that physical well being that you had when you left from Earth. Now, this causes muscle wasting and bone density loss, which is exactly what I was talking about when they're on the actual international space stations. When they come back, everyone experiences that. I made a joke a long time ago about, like, during stream, where somebody was like, I'm just big bone. I'm like, no, 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 no. Everybody's bones are the same as far as density wise, unless you have lived in outer space or you have a medical defect. And this is where this is the truth behind that joke I was making. Yes, you cannot be in space for long periods of time and expect to be functionally fine. Now, the surface of Mars has only 38% of the Earth's gravity. And here's the thing, there are there's no medical data right now on whether humans could survive long term, reproduce, or successfully carry pregnancies to term under partial gravity. Gravity puts in a lot of points here on Earth. It puts up high numbers that you're not gonna have in Mars. All of this shit is crazy to even think that they just made someone a true, and I mean true villain. The name of one of the centers, the data centers, is Colossus. Do you guys know what Colossus, the name Colossus comes from? It's named after a 1970s movie where AI literally took over the world and just started destroying shit. And here's the other part to that. I've tried explaining this before to you guys, and I've said this to other people, and they cannot get it through their fucking thick skulls. AI is not sentient. It is not helping you do anything more than what you can already do on your own. In fact, it's hurting people more than helping them. And it will for quite a long time before it ever gets to a point where this is any good. But the real reason why this transaction went through, shareholders. So, X is a money just drain as a company. When he bought that social media site to push his propaganda and every goddamn thing else, it was nothing more than a money drain. Then you've got Tesla. Tesla, again, another money drain. And one of the big things about Tesla is this: the EV batteries, they are one of the biggest problems in this scenario. And they will come back in a moment as I'm talking about this situation. And the other company, SpaceX, while SpaceX, quote unquote, brought in $18 billion, and you have to remember that all of that, a lot of that comes from government contracts, government funding, tax dollars from you all. Guess what? Well, it's in the negative every year about $6 billion. Why is this relevant? Where did I put that? This is the part that's crazy because the reason why they bundled it this way and the reason why it's going to hurt everyone else is because the bundle actually is playing off of the 401ks and savings of the American people. Essentially, to break this down versus all the detail I went to on here, they pushed through a rule to where the IPO could go on within a 15-day period of time instead of having to wait an entire year to go on to the S&P 500. 15 days. Why? Because investors wanted their money back on all of these companies they've invested in. That includes Tesla and SpaceX. As far as investment in Twitter or X, whatever, but they bundle them all together. It's nothing but a fucking shell game. Now, here's the thing right here. Where is this? Because I wrote this or I typed this in with a very specific for a very specific reason. I've already slightly explained it, but the fact is everything is put onto the 401ks of working individuals. If the bubble busts, if this bubble should burst the way that the housing market bubble burst in 2008, 2009, people are about to go belly up. Those 401ks, again, worthless, all over greed. Here it is, here it is, here it is. Retain. future payout, the future payout situation. Damn it! Did I not put this in here? I guess I didn't. I guess I didn't. Maybe I didn't. But the reality of it is, it's all prop. You don't own. Well, you're forced to own a portion of this stock in order to inflate the actual price of the stock. Now, while Musk cannot pull out for 1 year, that sounded crazy, but y'all know what I mean by that. He cannot pull any of his shares for 1 year. Those investors don't have that limitation. They can pull out whatever it is that they feel like they need to when it hits a max cap that they believe is relatively fine. Now, if that happens, they pull out whatever is owed to them based on the investments they made into Tesla and into SpaceX and into XAI. If they pull out at that point in time, you all know what happens to that stock at that point. Bloop, 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 bloop. And then let's say that that's around that year mark, and Elon Musk is like, "Nigga, I am on paper a trillionaire. Now, if I pull this bread out, I can financially actually be a billionaire, a liquid billionaire." Or I'm sorry, I said billionaire. I mean trillionaire. I can be a liquid trillionaire. Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, you all are screwed at that point in time. And damn it, why am I saying you all? I have a 401k. There ain't shit in my 401k. I'm not even joking. There's not. There's not. There is not. They they set this up automatically. I didn't even know that my job did this. I had no clue that they did this until all of a sudden I got an email saying, "Oh yeah, by the way, you need to contact so and so," and I still haven't contacted them about this. You need to contact so and so, Fidelity, in fact, Fidelity Investment Group, because of your. I'm like, my what? Yeah, I found out they set that up automatically. But I digress. There ain't shit in there. I'm putting shit in there. I got the money to put shit in there. Like it just don't. Yeah. Anyway, so let's keep this going. Now, I had to do a little bit of research on this part, and here's what's crazy. You have Fidelity too. Yeah, you're. I know what you do, so I know that you're. Did your company automatically set it up for you, or did they ask you to set it up? If you wanted to do so. Okay, no, no. I found what I actually put here. I actually did find it. Okay, so essentially, what I said was all he's doing is that he's taking his heavily debted companies and folding them into one for this IPO. I think I did, but they moved shares. Yeah, they moved the shares around for you. Of course, that's exactly how that goes. So because Tesla's core EV business faces uncertainty, I mean, yeah, and X remains deeply indebted, they anchored they anchored those to the $2.4 trillion asking for SpaceX and the AI structure. Now, here's the thing. In researching what other analysts, I told you what other analysts thought, and the median was about 780 billion as far as the valuation. But again, these valuations are based on the things that I spoke about earlier, which are absolutely lies. All right? The risk is transferred to the index funds of the index funds and the public itself. So the rule change, it was a rapid rule change for SpaceX to get fast entry into the Nasdaq, not the Nasdaq 100 index, which is crazy because the Nasdaq, that is one of the hardest ones to get into, and it normally takes a company at the very least a year. They have to wait it out. They have to wait out the year. But here's the thing. Who do you have in office as you guys as president right now? A a greedy moron, a greedy moron. And so, of course, he talked to the people he needed to talk to. He didn't even talk to him. He said, "Make this happen." make this happen. And so the rules were changed on the by the FTC. Now, millions of regular people are holding passive retirement accounts such as 401ks are now forced to hold SpaceX stocks, and they actually will bail out the company's risks without a choice. So if it fails, if Elon decides to pull all of his stock or a huge amount of his stock out, that that flushes the company itself down the toilet because he knows these things that he's saying are untrue. But yet again, the American people will be the ones to bail out another $1 billion, well, in this case, $1 trillion institution. The high retail allocation. All right, this is what's insane. SpaceX intentionally, they intentionally allocated in like 30% of its shares directly to retail investors. This shifts a massive part of the financial burden away from banks onto everyday retail traders. Why? The banks weren't willing to take this fucking risk. The banks they know that this is unrealistic, that this dream, this fucking pipe dream, this idea that this individual has is unrealistic. But you know what? They took on a little bit of the risk, and here's why: because they can make money off of it, pure and simple. But the rest of the risk, again, passed off to the American people. But let's take all of this and throw it out the window. And here's the thing: there's a ton of geopolitical interests that are involved here, whatever. But I want to take all of that off the table and get down to like what I know, how I know the math ain't mathin'. This part is funny because what he's saying now is that you know what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to set up these. Yeah, listen, ladies and gentlemen, my brain is about to explode on this part because this right here, this to me was like the dumbest thing that anyone could have believed when he said it. He said we're going to build the data centers out in space. If this were a class, I'd be like, can anyone, if this were a physics class, a science class, any fucking class, I could ask this in English class, I believe, and I'd be like, hey, if I told you we were going to do that, and if you have a room of decently intelligent individuals, can anyone raise their hand and tell me what the problem is? First and foremost, the physics of it is crazy. But the bigger thing is the vacuum of space, the heat problem. That is one of the most, or should be the most commonly known thing right there. The problem with heat. But let's go through it this way because I wrote it out this way. All right. On Earth, data centers, they take up a lot of energy. I told you guys that they actually they have to dewater areas in order to put these things in, and then they produce massive amounts of heat. That's just how it is. They're cooled typically by using water and circulating air. So they remove all the water, switch it over to where the data center itself now is taking that water in order to mass cool itself and then pump out all the hot air into the atmosphere. Now, I wrote down the physics of it, but I'm not going to get into that part of it. But just take the math of it. So like a current like land-based, earth-based AI data center consumes about 100 megawatts of power. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, uh, even if you don't know what a megawatt is, that should sound like a lot because it is a ton. It is a ton of power. Now, nearly all of that power becomes heat waste. That heat waste is pumped out into the atmosphere, and it causes all kind of issues. But I won't get into the whole, that whole part of it. This is where it gets stupid. To radiate 100 megawatts of heat into space at safe operating temperatures, so it would have to be somewhere around like I did this. I'm off, I think, right now in saying it this way, but I didn't put it in here. It's like somewhere around like 28, 28, upwards of 30 some odd, 30 degrees Celsius. All right. That had to be the offset. A space station would require a space data center would require massive radiators spanning over 220,000 square meters, which is about the size of 40 football fields. That's a lot. So now we run into the same problem that we ran into before, which is getting all of these materials up into space. That's to set up one space data center. Somebody tell me how this company was valuated at close to $1 trillion, was asking for a $2.7 trillion valuation, and made a fucking moron a trillionaire. But we're not done. The data transfer is another problem. Latency, bottlenecking of bandwidth, everything else. And the crazy thing about it is you have to think about something. Fiber optics, which are set up underground throughout, and I had fiber optics at my old place when I lived in the States. That's why my internet was so stupid fast. Like, you all remember, I downloaded a game and it took 30 seconds. What are we talking about here? At max, for something that was over 100 gigs, it was taking me maybe 10 minutes. But here's the thing. Now, you can't set that up in space. Infrastructure's not there. Nah, don't cap. You were using that White House Wi-Fi with the green screen. Hey, I had better Wi-Fi. No, no, no. I had better fucking internet than probably the White House does, y'all. Chat, like we remember, those were like, listen, my internet that I had when I lived in America was something crazy. Even here, my internet well, where I live, my internet is it's good. But I would have to have them come in and do some things to switch that up. But I don't even own that yet. Like whatever, whatever. But the latency and the speed of light limit is a problem. So the physical round trip for a data packet to travel from Earth to space and back, that introduces a huge latency problem. And even if it's a few milliseconds, you have to think that real-time processing for a data center, for AI, for a data center, and cloud gaming latencies, I'm sorry, cloud gaming latencies are quicker than what you would run into with setting up a data center in space. So this again, fucking stupid. Because you have to think about the things that they're going to be using, that they are using AI for, and that they're going to be using it for in the near future. And a lot of that involves fucking with the stock market. If anything is off, if anything is delayed, you could crash countries. So this is just crazy. Atmospheric interference. I don't think I need to go too much into that. But think about it though. Atmospheric interference, information transfer from space to wherever on the planet Earth. Especially dependent, because see, here's the thing. He just said in space. Where in fucking space? Where? And if you tell me he also wants to set this up on Mars because he has a fucking boner for Mars that's out of this world. Ladies and gentlemen, somebody needs to just right to the throat. Just give him that. Y'all can't even see how fast I'm moving. Let me do it slow for you. Bow! Straight to the throat. Chop his ass right to the throat and make him choke on his fucking words because this is crazy. I know Wi-Fi better. Hey, you know what? Shut your mouth. Nigga, fuck you. My line is clean when I actually cut my hair. The other part of it, space debris, meteors, radiation. All of those things play a part of it. Now, I'm going to stop on that and I'm going to give y'all something real quick. And that's the opposition to what I'm talking about here. And a lot of people, y'all know how I am. I think about other people's potential rebuttals, questions, things they might say against something when I'm speaking on it. And let me tell you something. These are the things that I came up with, and I think that they're fairly good rebuttals. One was, well, there's satellites and international space stations, all those things up in space. How do they survive? How's the heat not affect them? How's this? How's that? Yada, yada, yada. Let me explain something to you. All of that shit works differently. It's not a, a data center. All right. I'm just telling you why this cannot work. Why this evaluation was a lie. So first off, what I go with, I went with okay. So satellites, standard Starlink satellite or deep space probe operates with just 1 to 3 kilowatts of power. The International Space Station, which is the size of a football field, by the way, all right, that runs on 120 kilowatts of total power. You have to understand something. All of these things, they actually utilize a low power system. All of them do. So they all avoid overheating because the heat budgets are thousands of times smaller than what a data center would be, what it is, and what it would be in space. So it makes the cooling systems completely incompatible with a data center. Let's see. Oh, satellites and the rovers, and like the Mars rover, for instance. All right. So satellites are wrapped in highly reflective gold foil blankets. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the ones that they put out in space that go out and take all the photos of space, everything else. And it's a completely different passive system designed to bounce solar radiation away from the sun so it doesn't cook the hardware. But MLIs also trap heat inside. And if you wrapped one of these data centers inside of that sort of foil that those have, including, I'm sorry, the satellites have, and things like that, what you'd be doing is that you would actually be housing all of that heat underneath that, pushing it back onto the center itself, and every one of those chips would melt in a matter of seconds. And speaking of chips, another thing that all of this has done already has caused every price on hardware. We already talked about this. Hardware prices are insane. Buying RAM and anything else is out of the question, and other companies have already shut down the manufacturing of RAM to consumers. They're strictly working with the AI companies. So, other things would be like heat pipes, ammonia loops, things like that. Think of a fluid cooled system that you have in your PC. Not probable, not possible. Rovers and the Mars rover actually has an opposite problem because Mars has a thin atmosphere and gets very cold. Rovers generate heat using small nuclear thermal generators I had to look this one up to fully understand how those worked. While I understood portions of it, I did not know about the RTGs on it. But uh, it just warm enough and it keeps the ability to function. The physical impossibility of sun shielding is just you look, space telescopes like the James Webb use a multi-layered sun shield. And like I said already, you cannot dome a data center in a sun shield. It will destroy itself, plain and simple. Now, I want y'all to think about all the things that I said that they cannot do and the reasons why they cannot do it. And I didn't even actually go into the actual math of it, which is fucking insane. You know what? I might give you one thing. One thing. One of the things that I actually tasked myself with actually going into. But, okay. The calculation of the heat rejection area, this is something that we had to study, that you had to study in physics too. And essentially, this is so unrealistic that it potentially could not be figured out for easily 1,000 years. I mean, the math on this is it's dumb. I hate looking at what I wrote here. It is terrible. But let's just say that all of this was figured out. I'm gonna try and I'm gonna try and give y'all a little positive here. Let's say all of this was figured out and it was feasible to build these in outer space. Why the fuck, if you have all of this ability and all of this knowledge to do the impossible, which includes, again, like I said, transferring, and I mean be tons, megatons of required materials in outer space to do this, if you figured all this out, why don't you actually correct the problems that are currently here on the planet in which you and your fucking 14 children live on, 30, however many babies mamas, why wouldn't you figure those things out? And here's how they could. All right? So, let's say that they figured out some of these things. Here's something that would actually become available as Earth-based technology. Waterless closed loop data centers. Waterless closed loop data centers. If you figured out this fucking thermal issue, if you figured out this heat regulation issue, you could actually create waterless closed looped data centers here on the planet Earth. But you haven't figured that out. And so you just shit on the communities you go into. To survive in a vacuum of space, engineers must invent ultra efficient closed loop thermal systems that use zero air and zero water, relying purely on phase change materials or hyperconductive graphene structures to move heat. Now, if you guys don't know, graphene is used in a lot of different things that we use daily. Your cell phone actually has a bit of graphene in it. If this problem were figured out, people wouldn't be as upset about these data centers as they are, beyond the fact that it's taken up the amount of land that it's taken up. It's actually destroying people's homes as these places are being built. It's killing off farmland there in the country that you all reside. And this is why it would piss me off. Like, this is the thing. When this happens here, and this is why my friends here are worried about it, they're worried about the data centers being brought here to Japan. Hell, they already have a couple, but the data centers that we're talking about now are being looked at as being set up here. Mind you, there's nowhere near the amount of land here that there is in the States. Nowhere near the amount of farmland here that there is in the States. If the government does that here, they are literally killing off the society here. All right. If this tech were a reality, this would allow companies to build dry data centers and place AI supercomputers in the middle of the Sahara fucking desert or deep underground in drought prone regions without using a single drop of the local water. But it doesn't exist. And that's why this is a fucking lie and it's a pipe dream. The advancement to consumer electronics. I won't go through all of these, but I'll just list off the things I put down here. Next generation EV batteries. This would solve the deficit that they have at the company that he decided to bundle into this IPO in order to relieve itself of the debt that it has. High efficiency industrial decarbonization. But you know what? We've got this all figured out. We could decarbonize a shit ton of stuff efficiently at that. But man, fuck the people of Earth. We don't want to do that. I want to set up data centers up in space. I'm not gonna say exactly where. Maybe Mars. Maybe fuck it, Venus. I'll go for that attempt. Y'all done already gave me this amount. And listen, y'all done made me a fucking trillionaire on paper. When I cash out, that shit's a reality. That's what he's looking at this like. Almost 60 fucking years old, and you're telling me that everyone believed that this motherfucker was going through an altruistic time in his life, saying that he was going to build colonies on Mars, build the data centers up in space, while doing the very opposite of those things and building them here on the planet Earth, fucking up communities, draining people's energy, water, and resources. Not only that, not only that, paying off his other evil genius counterpart who invested in his businesses, and I believe the only one that that evil motherfucker invested in. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, we're talking about that ridiculous moron Peter fucking Thiel. He invested, I believe, in Tesla, but not SpaceX. Maybe it could be the reverse or both. And all the other people who invested in the companies but have not been getting the return on investment because of the fact that every one of these pipe dreams that he is fucking throwing out there as claims of a change to a greater future, when we all know it's not, all he's doing is losing their money but making himself rich at the same time. And now, hey, guess what? If you have a 401k, you're holding the bag if this shit goes up. If this goes belly up, you're holding the bag. I'm telling y'all right now, I could write all this out and actually put it on online for everyone to look at, for everyone to research on their own, for everyone to actually realize how much this math just ain't mathin'. One of the other things that could potentially have offset all of this is that since the LLMs were already created, like the structure for the AI and everything else, if people actually were able to run the AI themselves on their home PCs, which actually is feasible. In fact, someone a lot of you all know very well from online fame, PewDiePie, actually created a system that's a plug and play system for you to run AI on your home computer. Now, of course, it's going to be slower unless you build a better computer or a better PC at home. But the problem with that is, again, you can't. You can't. You don't have the bread for it right now. No one does. You could run models that actually work better than the Chat GPTs, Anthropic, Grok, all those other things on your home PC. But they made it to where you can't. Hell no. They wouldn't make any money otherwise. This is crazy to me. This is a bubble. It's a scam, and everybody needs to understand it. What can be done about it at this point in time? I mean, honestly, look, I guess maybe I just wanted to prove a point here. You know, I'm not bitching or complaining about anything. I am just proving to you that people eat up lies like they drink fucking water. It's insane to me that this has happened. There are means to actually stop this as far as the data centers going up in more and more places, but people have to together on doing that. And there's been a few cities that I've actually looked at and seen online, read articles about where they've stood up against companies coming in and setting up these data centers. But until everybody gets on the same page, this is what it is. And be prepared. Hey, it's not the Mexicans taking your jabs. It's not the foreigners that they're importing in who are taking our jabs. No, no. It's the people that you individuals who think they are so great because they're billionaires. Those people that you look up to, those people that you trust, that you listen to, who will lie to you in an instant and take the last fucking dime you had, even if you were on the ground starving, and that dime could buy you a full meal and sustain you for the next 10 years of your life. They would take it out of your hand in an instant and say, bitch, die. Because you're meaningless. You're meaningless to individuals like that. And that's just the fact. It's the truth. And this is the problem when you turn an individual who honestly, does not deserve it, into a fucking trillionaire. Why? Oh, because he's so smart. He didn't create anything. He is the Steve Jobs of his field. I've told you all how I feel about Steve Jobs. He was a fucking hype man. He was good at his job, though. He's a good hype man. I will give him that. But he never created a thing. He was there as the lifetime CEO of that company because he knew how to get people to buy the products that others were developing. Elon Musk bought X, ran it into the ground, bought Tesla, ran it into the ground, stopped some of the ideas that potentially could have boosted this company, skyrocketed it in a way that's actually meaningful, but did so and got the government to cover them to where you can't even get the Chinese EVs into the country that are better than the ones that Tesla produces. And then created SpaceX. And they took all the money away from NASA and everything else. He creates SpaceX to fulfill a dream, to fulfill not it's not a dream, to fulfill his ego. He knows this isn't possible. A million people on the planet Mars in his lifetime, not feasible. But hey, I'm gonna leave this alone at this point. I'm over it. I got it out my system. You guys feel free to let me know what you think about it in the comments. I would have rather have turned this into like a 20, 30, 40-minute video, but there was no way you all know, I don't have the time. This is the only time I have in order to talk to you guys about these things and then cut it and throw it up in its own video. But let's go ahead and move past this at this point. Just feel free to let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you see anything that I've missed as far as this whole, you know, situation where the math just ain't mathing? I mean, there's a lot more to it, but to go into that, I'd have to run like a week long marathon. But anyway, yeah, we're